From across the comic book community multiverse, the Comic-Con podcast begins now with your hosts, Justin, aka Nemesis Prime.
If you give them the title of influencer, then that's giving them more power, right? That's how it is. Like, I'm a nobody. Listen, I'm a nobody.
Zack, aka the Manimal.
We talked about it for a full, I believe, 7 to 8 minutes on an hour-long normal podcast for a show. And you would have thought we set their house on fire with the backlash. So,
hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic-Con podcast, season 3, episode 33. Recording this on August the 16th. It's your boys, Nemesis Prime, Milton the Manimal, of course. Got to first give a shout out to our man out in Grimsby, our buddy Jules, newest comic book community member.
Yeah,
A shout out to Jules. Good seeing him on the newbie-verse the other night.
it's really making a name for himself, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, no community questions this week. I kind of forgot about it, putting it up on the Instagram. I kind of did it late, so unfortunately, nothing going on community-wise. But we do have a guest this week. And before we get into the guest, Mr. Manimal, how's it going today?
It's good, but it's, we're no longer on the road, either one of us, back in our home offices, so to speak, recording.
Studios.
A little bit more comfortable. Home studios, a little bit more comfortable and professional than the shabby show we put together last week. But it didn't sound too bad, right? It wasn't too bad.
I haven't heard complaints from people. So if it sounded bad because of my audio, trying to stream off of a computer with no microphone and Zach in a hotel on Wi-Fi, we were both on Wi-Fi. So
hotel Wi-Fi too, which is always garbage.
Yeah, I know. So. I was hoping nobody was like coming into the room I was recording because I was at my parents. So, we always have those issues. So, again, this week we do have a guest. And speaking of guests, Zach, did you know that we did a variant recently?
I heard that we did, and it was pretty awesome.
Really well too. Yeah, I think we sold out of almost everything, and we do have some copies left. I think we did it with a partner, a little collab with someone named Mad Love Comics. So I think we have to bring on the guest, the man, the myth, the legend that helped us out on our Dr. Aphra, Japes Archer sketch comic gallery, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I have them sitting right next to me here in the short box, but we have James from Mad Love Comics. How's it going, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good, bro.
Glad to have you. Fantastic. Yeah. So
isn't the man, the myth, the legend said for those who have passed already? Isn't that? No, is that when you're still alive?
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm trying to think of. I almost said Charlton Heston, but he's dead.
Ric Flair?
Point made.
Who knows? Ric Flair is that man, myth, and legends that are still out there alive. For sure.
I'm doing well.
So I appreciate James coming on. Him and I
having me.
Yeah, no, dude, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to definitely get into everything, Mad Love Comics and art. But before we kind of get into that, make sure you go ahead and, follow James. You can find him right on Instagram on the Mad Loves Comics Instagram. Check out the website, madlovecomics.com. And of course, you can also sign up for the newsletter that gets you the first to know when all these amazing comics are dropping. So, before we get into the retailer side of you, James, give us a little bit of background, like how long have you been collecting? What do you collect? And like, where did everything all start with comics for you?
Oh, you make me go back. Well, I would consider somewhat new. I've been collecting comics and other miscellaneous items for probably 12 or 13 years. And then about 5 years ago, I kind of did a cleanse and kind of got rid of it. I had some life changes come up and kind of got out of the game. So kept a few of the things, the statues, the Legos, all that fun stuff. And then a few years ago, a good friend of mine now, I started getting into these covers that I'm doing. And I was like, I really like the art. For me, it was always, when I was collecting before, I was doing complete runs. So I was filling in every single hole that I could. I was buying. There was a joke. I got gifts from when Maui had their first comic store open in over a decade. He gave me a few really nice statues as a gift because I literally was paying his rent every month, twice over. So when I got back into it, I decided to really focus on the art and the artist. About 3 years ago, I want to say. And then last year, I always wanted to be a part of the community, but never could really figure it out. My skill set is I'm a designer and a web developer. So I was like helping other people with that. And then middle of last year, I decided, you know what, maybe I want to give it a shot. Talked to a friend of mine who's a retailer and said, I have this idea that, there's so many retailers out there. There's so many other people who are putting out great books. But a lot of people are selling them. How do I differentiate myself from them? And that's kind of where I landed on, there's a lot of artists around the world that I follow that have never been printed, don't do prints. They're not published in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And either that's because, that they're not interested in it or they would like to, but just haven't had the opportunity. So the concept I came up with is, well, why don't I look for artists from around the world who haven't been published, or are unknown or smaller or want to do more. And that's kind of where it led into, what I'm doing now is kind of focusing on publishing artists who are unknown in the hopes that they become known. So the goal for me, and I've had a couple success stories so far, is that, I find a future DC or Marvel artist, and I give them that opportunity because there's so many great artists out there, but the collector's world is usually so hyper focused on these artists that are really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And they produce great art, but I think it kind of leaves this lack of diversity
right
in the art. So that's kind of where I landed on that last July. I took the next 5 months kind of trying to figure out all the details. And then November of last year, the 27th, was the launch of my first cover, the Zatanna by Anna Marcano, who is one of those success stories where she has now done 5 covers for World Tree, the James Tinian book. So pretty proud of that. But that's kind of how I came to be and kind of what my focus is. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice, nice.
How do you go about, okay, you've got your stable, so to speak, of artists right now, but how would you go if you were to start today? Like, you're like, you know what, I need to find someone new. How do you go about searching for these new artists? Like, do you have a pathway that you use typically, or like, what's your method?
I scroll through ArtStation, Twitter, Instagram, follow rabbit holes of other people who are following me, who they're following. And now it's gotten to the point where I have a few people that routinely send me, hey, you should really publish this artist. And so now a lot of it is kind of getting those messages and following up. It used to be like that's exactly how I did it the first time. I have a Google document that has links to artists that I want to reach out to, what their rates are, every bit of information I can find on them, so that when I do reach out, I try to look at the stuff that they publish and that have on their portfolio, and then come to them and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to do a cover of, I have one coming out of Jinx, and I had just noticed that they had posted something and said their favorite thing that they like doing is Jinx. And I've always wanted to do one. So I found it's easier to get through to those artists, searching for Jinx and then find the ones that want to do it.
Yeah. And then for the people that don't know, Jinx is from the League of Legends Arcane series. If you watched it on Netflix, very Harley Quinn kind of character, but amazing. And James sent it to me, or I think I don't know, can't remember if you posted it on Instagram or you sent it to me.
I put it in the story.
Yeah. Okay. So and it's amazing. And I love, a lot of the artists that you do work with. And tell the people that don't know, who didn't pick up our variant, and it's, sad for you that didn't pick up, the collab between James and us. What's the meat and potatoes? Like, what's inside of the book? So explain that to the people.
Yeah. So when I set out, I'm not a writer in the pure sense of the word. I knew I had to put it on a story. There are other options out there with other publishers where you can publish their cover, publish a cover using their interiors. But what was really important to me is that I knew what was on the inside of the books so that I could make sure that it aligned with what the artists were okay with. So a lot of artists I work with do the not safe for work variants, but I do have a few artists, Anna being one of them, who has no interest and doesn't want to. So I never asked them to. So for me, it was, well, would I be comfortable putting her artwork, knowing she's not comfortable drawing that stuff, on a book that includes that? So then it was, okay, well, it went back to what my mission was, is getting more exposure. So then that led me down to they're basically artist portfolios. So they do the cover work and then they provide whatever artwork they want to have on the inside.
So they pick what's kind of being highlighted in the meat of the book.
Exactly.
Okay.
And because it's, I license, they provide it basically for me to use for the interiors, and I only use it in that way.
Gotcha.
The license that they grant me is only for interior artwork. I don't use it in promos. I don't use it in future artwork. They send me high res files. It'd be easy to slap it on the cover and go, oh, oops, sorry. No. So then it kind of goes back to that idea of promoting their work. So I know a lot of these books, a lot of people, collectors, they don't want to touch them. But in some cases where people, have been very animate about wanting to see the insides, I've sent out a free cover here or a free book here and there and say, you need to check out the inside, because that's really where I think it shines. But then there's the other side of the art division, I guess you could division. I'm trying to make myself sound bigger than one person.
Hey, one person can still be a division, man.
Right?
Don't sell yourself short. There's a lot of work going on over there. So
personality number 3 handles that.
Yeah, right.
So then I have the
Patricia. What is it from? Split. Patricia handles the
Patricia.
The selling of the books.
I got to come up with. Let me Google what the other names were. But then there's because I'm doing artists that have never been published or commercially, a lot of them didn't have a portfolio to go on the inside. So then it was, okay, well, what do I do then? So then it's the Mad Love cover gallery. So then I do the interiors are past work that I've commercially paid for. But then I tag or I label each piece of artwork with the artist who did it. So they're still getting the exposure if the book is open. The splash page on the inside of the book is all about the artist, a bio, their handles and websites and their name and whatnot. So whoever's the cover artist, whether their interiors is on the inside or not, is still being promoted first thing out of the shoe.
That's awesome.
And then you're doing and explain and you do different styles of art for all your covers, right?
So
there's 4 different styles, I would say, or maybe.
As far as like the variants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it ranges anywhere from, I have the trade. I always have a trade and a virgin. And then it goes into, sometimes there's a lingerie on the topless and a nude. Those ones, because I do 2 books now, I look at the productions of these books as kind of an art piece. And so that kind of gives me, I have the cosplay gallery books now as well. And then I'm looking at testing out a toy photography book. Talking to someone about that is basically because there's a lot of, that's something I used to do as a hobby years ago, is there's a lot of great toy photographers that create these amazing scenes and shoot them, you get stormtroopers blowing up and all this other stuff, and putting that into a book, because it's really an art book in a comic format. So then if they aren't doing the variants that are not safe for work, I guess, or not safe for wife, not safe for work. Then
even put the kids around.
Yeah,
right? If the kids around can't have that certain books.
Can't exactly. Well, I have 3 kids myself, and none of them actually even knew what I was doing in the back corner of the house until like a month ago. They just really didn't care.
Sounds horrible, actually. So worded really poorly, I think. What you were doing in the back corner of the house.
Well, when you're trying to hide, no, I'm kidding.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, hell yeah.
Geez, if anybody came into that room with no one can see James's background, but I mean, we've kind of gone over it. It's got he's got every variant that he's ever done so far. And you started in what, November? You said, right? November of
the end of November. And then I've put out, I'm still waiting on a few issues from the printer, but there are now 88 issues that have been released for either order or pre-order in the last 9 months.
That's just unbelievable.
Well, yeah,
It's
10
just
a month
crazy.
on average. Because again, it's about the art and the exposure for the artist. So I could get the art and then hold on to it for 3 months because I only want to release a book every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But then what does that really gain for the artist?
No, for sure.
You know, and then I can't hire him again because I'm waiting to release the other one. So as soon as I get it, it usually goes out.
So how did you, so you started with like the art prints. How did you kind of, because something else I think is really interesting and I like about what you do is the cosplay aspect. Like how did you rotate to that and add that to like your portfolio, I guess, so to speak?
Well, that one, I've always considered cosplay as an art form. And then, I follow cosplayers. I've, seen amazing photography work. The first cosplayer I brought on board, who Angelina Cherniak's from the Ukraine, who works in LA now as a designer for Riot Games. It was just, I guess I've just always been drawn to that really well done style of cosplay, and that's really a big part of a lot of conventions is the people who are cosplay. Well, these cosplayers are putting out amazing work, and usually it's trying to make a profit, trying to make a living from it. So for me, and then the cosplay books, one thing that a lot of people I think are slowly starting to realize is it's typical that you might have a cosplay cover to an issue. So you might have just let's say Harley Quinn as a cover. Well, it's still the same interiors as an art book, right? Well, every cosplay book that I put out, the cover is just a representation of all of the images inside. So there's usually 20 pages full of additional images in that cosplay. So if you're an Ivy fan and you love the cosplay cover, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to love every single page on the inside. So again, it's a portfolio for that cosplayer to show their work and hopefully get them more attention and more followers or more people buying their, signing up for their Patreon page. That's one thing I do is every artist and or cosplayer that I have published, if they have a Patreon page, I also support. Just to, encourage them, kind of be a part of it.
And what's interesting about the cosplay side is, unlike the artist side, where whether it's digital or traditional art, and you'd have like the trade dress, like what we've done with ours, with the Dr. Afra, there's the trade dress, there's the virgin, there's the topless, there's the nude. But with the cosplays, every cover is different. So it's not like you're just getting, you're not just doing, like you said, like your first cosplay girl, and it's just, all right, well, the first one's going to be her trade dress, and then the next one you're just kind of removing the Mad Love Comics logo, and it's the same book on the on the outside and inside. At least the outside, if you get the different variants, you're getting a different cover, which is nice, because some of them I've seen have, what I think some of them even have like 5 or 6 covers, right? Some of the that you've done, it's like wild.
It's that's, some of these cosplayers, sometimes they go trade and virgin where it's just the one image because of how big the photo sets are. Because if I try to keep my books at a minimum of 20 pages, including the covers. Sometimes I'll go down to 16, but some of these cosplayers, when they put together these photo shoots, they give me 30, 40 photos.
Wow.
It's like, I have a lot of options, so why not share them? And I try to make it to where if it's on a cover, it's not on the interiors. So if I have 5 covers, I really, really try very hard to make sure that none of those 5 covers are in that book, so that you never get kind of like a repeat or just filler or whatnot. I think I've stayed pretty close to that. But yeah, it's for me, it's just great to see the production that goes into these. I mean, there's lighting, makeup, costuming, there's all scheduling of studio time. I mean, they really do it well. And one thing, you mentioned with the art side is, the not safe for work variants with like the topless. That's the one thing that I decided from the get-go is I'll never publish anything that's topless or nude on the interiors or the exteriors when it comes to real people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like
Because
the cosplayers and stuff like that.
the cosplayers, because you've removed the focus from the art of cosplay, and now you're just selling soft porn, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the one biggest difference between the digital and traditional art covers that I do and the cosplay.
Since you started doing this, are you having any like cosplayers kind of reach out and be like, hey, I've seen your work, I'd like to be in your book? Yes, that's awesome, man.
So and there's a handful of cosplayers I'm still trying to get through too. You know, and so and Angelina, the first one, I reached out to her on Patreon, and that area of this world was really hard to break into because you can imagine the kind of messages that these women get.
Right.
Oh my God.
The creepiness of it is kind of
right.
Hey man,
so
this is like, professional, not creepy.
It took me probably a month to figure out how I'm going to write this to approach them. And then, you know, you start out with
their door.
Yeah. It's like, hi, excuse me, I'm not creepy, but can I buy your photos? Right. You know, for Angelina, it was joining her Patreon, subscribing for a couple months, and then sending a message saying, hey, I love your work. This is what I'm doing. I'd love to show you an example. You know, what do you think? And she took a chance on it. And then she's part of a whole bunch of Ukrainian cosplayers. There's like 9 of them. And then it just kind of grew from there. And now it's into Russia. And even just like the art side, I have people sending me links to cosplayers going, hey, you should really reach out to this person. The cosplay ones are nice because you can get them produced a lot faster. You know, art commissions take time. Cosplayers, a lot of these ones are work that's already been completed. So it's just going through and making sure the photos are edited correctly or if it fits and kind of just communicating back and forth. Some use translators in order to communicate. So that's always fun, but it's been an interesting thing. It's starting to pick up. It wasn't that big of a lot of people didn't know what to think of it.
Right.
It's different, I think, also for the cosplay, and it's good because, you know, I go to shows, Zach goes to shows. We've all been to cons, right? You know, New York, San Diego, Terrificon, Baltimore, whatever it is, right? And you see the cosplayers there and they have a booth and they're dressed up and they typically sell like what? They'll either sell like maybe a calendar if they're really popular or like prints.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're going to spend $10 to $20 for one picture when, you know, you can go on your site and you can buy like a comic portfolio of that cosplayer. And it has multiple, you know, again, 16, maybe 20 photos of them, which is cool to check out, one. And then also it'd be nice to, like, you know, if I was really interested in a certain cosplay, you know, girl or guy, whatever, bring that comic to them, have them sign it and have it slabbed. And I would, you know, have it done by CGC. And then I would have it like up on my wall, whether it be like a Star Wars character or Harley or, you know, X-23 or whoever. Like, and I think that's better than, you know, just having like one piece of paper that's like, hey, this is a photo of me signed, you know.
There's options for collectors, right?
Yes.
Well, and that was actually part of the original concept and I you know, all my the art side of it, I typically limit everything to 50 copies or less. With the cosplay ones at the beginning, I was limiting it to 100 so that I could give the cosplayer 20 or 25.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Have at a convention, still stay within my print run, because that's really important to me. But then give them something to sell or to, you know, to have at their booth, because you are right. Most cosplayers don't really have that much. You know, a lot of people, you know, I guess their expectation is even if they have a booth, they're either there with another publisher or comic book company and they're signing the books that they're put on the cover. But if they have their own little booth and they're doing their own thing, really they're just taking photos and, like you said, a calendar or a print. And, you know, this was kind of more of a very professional, well done art gallery of their work in the hopes that they would eventually get out and put them at conventions and whatnot. So that was kind of part of the original concept.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. How do you, How do you decide like what's your method in terms of, are you going to go back and forth like, okay, art now cosplay, art now cosplay? Oh, I did a couple arts, I got to do a cosplay.
I just get it when I get it.
Yeah,
I put it out when I get it. So
no
like
rhyme or
recently,
reason, just what comes.
it's just what comes, you know. And I know a lot of people have artists that I have, you know, I have schedules with them, and a lot of the other retailers, they have these schedules that want to do covers and this and that. And for me, it's like, if I get it, I want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I negotiate. Now, last weekend I released 6 cosplay issues at once.
Wow.
Because I started really backing up on all of these, because really I have right now, I could do 80 cosplay issues with what I have right now, all different photo sets. So I've gone all in, and it's mostly because, you know, the art's taking a while. But I have you know, I have one art duo, a brother duo, that's doing a kind of a Bruce Timm Batman animated series style cover using the women DC Rogues galleries.
Mm-hmm.
But then each cover is going to be one character, but they're going to be connecting covers. But you don't have to buy all of them and or put them in any particular order for them all to connect properly. So they're doing the background in such a way that you could put one last or one first, and it would still connect.
That's cool.
I have a burlesque series. I have an original character that just came out that I'm working on the storyline to. But she's a 1950s burlesque dancer that dreams as if she's in other fandoms. So really, you're going to have a first one teaser is imagine a burlesque style Queen Amidala, because she's dreaming as Queen Amidala. Or you know, so that's kind of, I've always loved burlesque as a style. So that's coming up. So developing those things just take a while. So usually the cosplay stuff is a lot easier to get out there.
And being that you've done, you know, the art side for the art, and you know, and people know this from listening to the people that listen to this podcast for many past 2.5 years, I'd say. I'm the art guy. Zach's the story guy. We always say that. I always say that, whether Zach says it or me. So, and you know, obviously you're big into art, so I got to ask, you know, being either traditional or digital, this is kind of like a 2-part question. Which one of these covers is your favorite, and which one of them is the one that like can't believe how well it did?
The surprise hit.
Yeah.
Well, the surprise hit it's easy. That was Spider Gwen.
Ooh.
That was and the interesting thing about that is, you know, a lot of people follow me. They already know that I work pretty closely. Goblin Collectibles is a retailer, and I work closely hand in hand with him. And we've shared art, we've shared concepts, we shared this. And for him, he was so backed up with what he had. He's like, "Hey, do you want this as a cover? Here's the art costs." And I paid the cost, and I put it out actually the night that I landed in Rome at the beginning of the year. I was like, okay, I'll just put it out there and we'll see where it goes. And the fact that I'm still being asked about that cover just floors me. You know, it makes me go, oh man, I wish I hadn't limited it to only 50. Like, until I go back and no. So then it was Ivan Talavera, who's the artist, is super busy. Recently did the Black Cat, which has also done really well. But then starting next month, he's actually going to be a monthly. So that's been a process since end of January to kind of get that artist on a regular. My favorite cover, and I think will always be the first one I put out, is Zatanna by Anna. Mostly because for one, she was the first artist that took a chance. I messaged 50 artists within that first month trying to get a response, and she was the first one to do it. She had never published or done any commercial work, published work, hadn't even thought about doing comics, and she just did an amazing job. And I think because of that cover, the momentum right off the bat was really nice to have. Favorite cosplay cover is going to be the Ivy cover by Angelina Triniak so far. And then I do traditional artwork. So I also do traditional covers where I work with artists who draw it traditionally, mail it to me. I professionally scan it so I can color match it, and I produce it as a cover. And there's an Ivy by Renato Oak that I haven't published yet, but his first Ivy for me of published books would be one of his Ivies. This is the backside shot, which was the first one I did. So those are the. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, no,
for sure.
I remember. I mean, anytime you post anything, you know, I remember the artist, like when you're saying it and the cover. So, and you know, it's crazy, and it's obviously, you know, we've collabed with a cover, you know, a few months ago with the Afro dropping it, you know, for around May the 4th. And I remember just scrolling through Instagram, and I just remember seeing your name and just seeing the Zatanna cover, and I'm like, this is amazing. And my one friend who lives out in Kansas City, and he's purchased a lot of stuff from you as well. We always flip back and forth, you know, sending each other messages of like, check out this cover, or whatever, this, you know, incentive variant or exclusive variant. And him and I saw it, and we literally sent it almost within like 5 minutes of each other and didn't realize. And I'm just like, I don't even know what this is, but Zatanna is like one of my favorite characters in the DC universe, excluded from like the Bat family. And I was just like, I started following you. I remember buying that one, and, you know, and it's been, I picked up so many since, you know, and it's just unbelievable. Like, I wish I had the money to buy more. That's obviously what a lot of people say, right?
Right.
But there's
I only tell them so I can feed my addiction, but yeah,
just feed them more. But yeah, between, you know, like Anna, Lan, Ivan, there's so many, you know, anybody, for the people that are listening, please, you know, go check out James's website, like madlovecomics.com. There's just so much, you know, even ones that, you know, that have sold super well, that are so different. Like, and that's the one thing that's I love about that. What you're putting out is like, one style, like Anna's style, is not like Japes, like for what we did for Afro, or like Land's style, like with like the Magic, or I think Emma Frost. Like, then you have other ones that are just way out there. Like I remember when I was
like, I have one by a guy named Aiden. I'm a big Bruce Timm fan in his style. Well, there's artists out there that have very similar styles, you know. So I put out that Princess Leia one, was very Bruce Timm inspired, and I kind of go back to, if I would want to collect it, then that's what I'll put out. And I collect things all across the board as far as styles or characters, you know. So it's like, why be limited to any particular style or artist when there's just so much out there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Justin.
Sorry. Oh no, I was just saying, to kind of agree with Justin. I like how you can go on your website and there's something for everyone. And it's not like, hey, here's 50 battle damage books or something like that. You know, I mean, there's so many different styles. It's like, you know, that's not for me, but that is, this isn't, you know, I mean, there's really just like a plethora of options. And that's not even like, I just think it's really cool what all you've done. And I'm excited, honestly, you know, about the toy thing. I think that's awesome as well. Like, so, hey, here's some art print, here's some cosplay, check it out. Here's some toys that are like, you know, an awesome caricature, or like set up in whatever, like events or something. I think that's really cool. Just like the variety that you produce out there. So,
well, I appreciate that. Yeah. It's for me, it's about having fun. It's appreciating the art, comic books I've collected. So that's kind of why I picked the medium that I did. You know, I still get the questions, you know, why, you know, what's a comic book? Define a comic book. It's like, well, there's not a story, but there's a story behind why I do it. I guess that could be, maybe I got to figure out how to write that up.
Yeah. I remember when I did our exclusive on Whatnot, and I was selling, and they were like, well, what issue of Dr. Afra this is? And I was like, not Marvel, and it's not an issue.
Well, Justin had to explain it to me as well, when he was like, hey, look, this is what we want to do. This is where, or let's do this. And I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're saying. So what's in the middle of it? What's inside the book? And so,
well, and that's part of a conversation a lot of people have, and really ultimately in this world of collecting, very few people ever open it.
Of course. Listen, I used to be a big Zenescope fan. Like, I used to buy all those exclusives from all those different, you know, everybody, Ali Garza, you know, Sabine Rich, everybody, right? Tyndall, everybody. I never opened up the book, not the exclusives. Like, I wasn't paying $20 to $50 to $100 for like those covers to open them up to read. I'll just to get the regular book and read that,
the reader copy
or the digital copy, you know.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
The digital,
get the digital.
Oh, all my Zenoscope stuff, it would come back 9/8. I was never touching that.
Right. So yeah, it's for the art.
Exactly. Totally. So before we switch over to some articles, I just want to ask one question, and then Zach can ask one question before we get to some comic book stuff. Do you get here's obvious, this is a big one. Do you get any hate from what you do? Like any backlash?
No, I have not yet. I have not, and I don't know. Well,
I know I say that, and now you're going to get something like next week.
It's just like open the door.
I guess Justin. I nothing. Are you? I guess it depends on which side of the aisle you're talking about.
I mean, like, do people like hit? I guess message you and been like, "Well, there's too many booby books or too many, like."
No, the only thing that I get is they hate that I won't publish topless or nude cosplay books. That's like the biggest push that other people have been trying to get.
But yeah, you explained yourself.
That's, I guess, not really hate.
Yeah, that's not.
I know I can make a lot of kills.
It's just desperation, is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and for me, even with like the topless and nude, I don't do lewd, so I don't do anything that's
suggestive,
outright sexual.
Yeah,
in that sense. So for me, it's always the tease of it is always more of a draw than outright everything out there to be to be shown or to be seen.
I agree.
So I'm always erring on the side of classy and sensual versus outright just in your face. There's enough of that stuff on the internet, art or not art. So I try to keep it classy. Like if my mom's an art major and she knows what I do, and she's offered to come help me pack when I've gotten like really behind. I was like, Mom, because I'm still in my mind a little kid compared to her, but I was like, that half these books are either nude or topless. She goes, well, yeah, it's art. Like, but she's an art history major. So like some people, if you think about it, there's more nudity in a museum than in one of my books. There's even more aggressive sexual scenes hanging up on museum walls that I'll never have in my books. So that's kind of my canned response to that if it ever comes down.
Yeah.
It's the truth, though. Absolutely the truth. Zach?
Yeah, so okay. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. What that you haven't, what character or what do you want to do that you haven't done yet? Like what's the pie in the sky right now for you in terms of whether it's a cosplay person you want to work with specifically that you haven't got around to, or a character that you haven't done yet, or something like that?
The one cosplayer I'm trying to hunt down and get in contact with is Kalinka Fox. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her.
No, gonna have to Google it now though.
Yeah,
look her up and yeah.
People listening are probably like, you don't know her. And sorry,
I don't really know a lot of.
Kalinka Fox is probably my top cosplayer that I would like to sign to bring on board as a future issue. But from what I'm told, because I do work with other cosplayers who know her, she's very reserved and very quiet. So and very hard to get a hold of. So that's that. As far as characters, if I'm being honest, I would love to do more issues outside of females.
Okay.
I don't want to be just in this booby books, I guess is what you call them, or the female, or the male gaze type of books, whatever you want to call them. Like I did 4 issues, a Universal Monsters one, which isn't my demographic at this moment, but I would actually like to grow the demographic of stuff outside that. Characters, I mean, I've done so many. I like to do the obscure ones. I have a Dee twins coming up. That's kind of fun. Dee twins is from the Batman. Which series was that?
Beyond. Yeah, Batman Beyond.
Yeah, they're the granddaughters of Harley Quinn. Remember the
Yep.
Dee twins?
That's cool.
So finding stuff like that. Nora Freeze.
Oh, that's kind of
cool.
cool.
The cover I want to do. So I'm trying to find the right artist for that. But yeah, just anything that I haven't done yet, which is quite a bit.
And I think, and like Zach said it before, and I said it before, you know, when you go down your website, there is something for everybody, whether it's, you know, comics, Marvel, DC, you know, obviously, I don't think you've done anything indie yet I can think of, right?
That one you had to be a little careful with.
Like Vampirella. There's some Vampirella.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That one was a little iffy to put out there. Lady Death is one.
Yep. Okay.
Which I won't touch with Simple without Brian Polito's blessing. But I have talked to him a couple times, so who knows where that might go. I want to do a cosplay gallery featuring Lady Death.
Yeah.
But I got to get his blessing and sign off and agreement and all that stuff. And then I just had more anime characters.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. More, you're into the gaming thing, you're into the anime thing. So yeah, like you have the the hell's her name from Jury from Street Fighter, which Anna did it, which is God, yeah, so cool.
Yeah,
I would
Zelda,
love to see,
Pokemon, Pikachu one. Yeah,
I'd love to see like Aloy
send a message and they say, "I want this character." I'm like, okay,
write it to the list.
Yep.
So good. So yeah, I mean, that's crazy. You've done 80 since, you know, over 80 in not even a year's time, which I think is absolutely amazing, especially for, you know, for someone that's never had like a background in doing all that. Like you literally just started it, you created it, and then boom, you know, like you said, you started out with Zatanna, and they're coming out, you know, every week now. I see like you're posting on Instagram, and I'm like, oh God, I want to pre-order this.
What do you have planned? Sorry, this is a second question. Sorry, go ahead.
My background in web development and graphic design, I've laid out books for publishers and authors and magazines and whatnot. So that's really helped being able to put these together the right way. And I also, you know, with the support of the friends that I've made along the way, buying all their books in the past has kind of been helpful. So I was already kind of part of that community. So I definitely had a lot of help along the way.
That's cool. What do you got planned for the first year, like the anniversary of the first issue?
Anna Marcano is going to do another Zatanna.
Oh, Justin. I can just see him like he's dying.
And I'm actually, I was planning on making a trip to Argentina where she lives. Buenos Aires is a couple hour flight for her. But I was going to do in November because that's the best time of year, but then to bring a whole bunch of books to have signed by hand. And now that I think of it, might be a good time to release that 1 year anniversary book or have it with me and already published or printed so I can get that one signed as well. Because I saved a handful of the original Zatannas to be signed at one point. So that's probably going to be the 1 year thing. So it's going to be a redo of Zatanna.
That's cool, man.
Not a redo. I mean, it's hard to top it. But yeah, so that she's on board for that. So that'll be the 1 year mark.
Zatanna 2.0. All right.
If she's not too busy.
Well, yeah, I know she's been blowing up, and I think that's all thanks to you and claim to fame, right? You know, you're gonna find these artists who are, you know, just on Instagram, just on TikTok, on DeviantArt, ArtStation, wherever, and they're gonna blow up somehow. And I think Anna's like prime example. I mean, everything that Anna's done for you has been amazing. Like
and what she's done for others as well.
Yeah,
Bird City Comics, the World Tree stuff. She's just you know, I always say my job's easier. The people who create this art just make it easy for me.
Yeah, it's wild. So, other than talking with James tonight on literally could spend probably 2 hours talking Mad Love Comics and all the exclusives and just all the background stuff. Let's just kind of let's get into some quick articles before we get out of here. Obviously, we are still in the midst of, we've been saying it every week, you know, no movie, no comic book, no TV news because of the writers' strike, the actors' strike, whatever's going on. So there's always comic book, but that's the best thing because we are a comic book podcast. So coming over from Marvel.com, this actually was just published on the 15th. So Wolverine has the ultimate showdown with his arch nemesis in Sabretooth War. So writers Benjamin Percy and Victor Valini team up with artists Corey Smith and Gerard Shaw for the most violent story Wolverine has ever told. So coming out in January is going to be the Sabretooth War, a 10-part epic coming starting in issue number 41. That's going to culminate to the landmark 50th issue of Wolverine. We've seen Wolverine in all over Krakoa, and it's time to have Wolverine fight Sabretooth in this, it's one of the longest ongoing feuds, the yin and the yang right there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my man Manimal is super happy and excited for this one. I mean, I haven't really, there's always been some good, I'd say good and not great, but Wolverine story arcs in his ongoing series. This one, I think, will culminate something that has been since the beginning. We've seen it in movie format and we've seen it in cartoon format. And now this is something that I think that's going to be extremely very well done with the writers and the artists that are on this book. Zach, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I mean, there's so many things to talk about here. Like Benjamin Percy has crushed it in terms of he's writing Wolverine, he's writing X-Force, and now he's also writing Ghost Rider. So I'm really, really digging what Benjamin Percy's been doing. I talk about this a lot when we talk about the X-Men showing up in the MCU and in the over saturation of Wolverine somewhat that we've had over, for a long time with Marvel in a way. But the Krakoa age has actually done really well, I felt like, with dialing back the Wolverine, where for, years and years, you had almost every story had to have Wolverine in it. But with the Krakoa age, we have so many titles, and Wolverine really only shows up in his own title and in X-Force for the most part. And I think it just makes his title or his stories so much stronger, and it makes the rest of the X-Men titles as strong as well. And yeah, this article goes on to talk about, since the beginning of the Krakoa age, we haven't seen anything with Sabretooth and Wolverine. And, Krakoa age started with all mutants come live on this island. Everyone will live happily ever after together. And so as a X-Men fan, you're like, there's no way Wolverine and Sabretooth on an island together. And so what did they do? They took Sabretooth off the board immediately and threw his ass in the pit. So we've had a really good storyline with Sabretooth coming out of the pit, Victor Laval writing the Sabretooth miniseries, and there's been a lot of hints that Sabretooth is actually kind of forming his own little mutant community as well, and it's supposed to play into the whole Krakoa age as well. And the showdown will be great. I can't wait to see it. All these characters these two writers also have a tendency to write a little bit of horror. Lavelle wrote a lot of what does he say? Percy goes on to call him a horror head and a giant comics nerd. So I can't wait to see this. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really pumped. I love the covers. They kind of have the vibe from, was it Wolverine Volume 3 or something? Written by the Jason Aaron stuff when I think they were going to war with each other. I think that's when Wolverine decapitates Sabretooth at one point in that storyline. So
yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
I can't think of the last time I saw Sabretooth. I mean, I know I'm not as a huge X-Men fan like you, but yeah, with Sabretooth has definitely been gone for a while, I guess. And we're finally going to see him a little bit. So
yeah, they say something here. What does he say? Oh man, they mentioned something about Sabretooth comes in and he's gonna do here we go. It's a war decades in the making, and it kicks off when Sabretooth revives a deadly tradition with some of Logan's loved ones in the crossfire. So if you're familiar, on every year, Sabretooth hunts down and kills someone that Wolverine loves on his birthday. And so that's kind of been a tradition that has kind of moved away from. And when I read that line, I got chills a little bit. I was like, ooh, so that'll be cool, man.
All right.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, so that starts in January with Wolverine 41, like I said, going all the way until issue number 50 with, I'm sure, some crazy, hopefully an outcome that is actually worthy of Wolverine and Sabretooth. So there's not much movie news, and I feel like this is going to be fun to talk about, but, there's this big rumor around Deadpool 3, right? We all know. There is tons of people that are going to be cast, tons of people that are going to be showing up. There's this big rumor that Taylor Swift is going to be showing up as Dazzler. James smiling already over there.
I heard that rumor.
What do we, like, again,
She's
I want
not
to
a
go to
good
James
actress.
first. Yeah.
Ugh.
I want to go to James first. James, what are your thoughts on seeing Taylor Swift and on the big screen as Dazzler? Do you think it's something that should be done? What do we think?
I'm one of those people that I don't pass judgment. I mean, it's hard. I mean, how many times have people passed judgments on actors or actresses in the past that end up giving us just performances that go down in history? So will it be good? I mean, it's always, can it be good? Yes. Could it be bad? Yes. It's kind of hard to say, but it was a very interesting headline to read. Taylor Swift as Dazzler, and I guess visually I could see it, but it's hard to say on whether that's going to work or not. I don't know. It's hard. I don't like to pass those judgments.
But I feel like for the most part, I think any singer could play Dazzler. I just think it's interesting to have someone who, again, it's going to be a cameo from what they're saying, but this makes all the T-Swift fans run out and become comic fans now all of a sudden, right? Like that's how
Disney might just be trying to get a new, pandering. Is that the right word? Trying to draw, a bigger box office sale from the Swifties. Who knows?
From the Swifties.
Yeah.
I have a daughter.
That's why I figured. Yeah, I didn't want to. Sure, you either a boy or a girl. If you had a girl, I'm sure she's into Taylor Swift. My wife, she saw Swift with her sister earlier this year, and that happens, right? That's everybody.
Yeah, she prefers Avril Lavigne, to be honest.
Okay, I'm a Lavigne fan.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I'm a Taylor Swift fan. Like, I don't own any of her music, but like there are some songs that I actually genuinely like and are very catchy. Yeah. Like, she is talented. To say otherwise, whether she's your type cup of tea or not, is wrong. But
I don't have that favorite T Swift song.
Yeah. Everyone's got a favorite T Swift song. That's for sure, dude.
It's playing in your headset at the gym. It's on one of your playlists. Don't lie.
As you're like hitting your max rep on the bench press, right?
Zach, what do you think about all this? Like, we always talk rumors, we talk spec. Is this especially for us, like, is this, and especially the comic book collecting market, is this good? This is bad? What do you think?
So I didn't think of it in terms of who it would bring to the comic book market, but at the same time, you bring the Swifties just for a little bit, they're not going to stay. So I don't know. I love Dazzler as a character. Dazzler is an amazing character who has amazing potential visually and as a character, and her power set is very interesting and powerful. So when you said cameo, that makes me upset right out the gate. Like, let's give her a little bit more time. I would love to see Dazzler. She's one of those characters we haven't seen live action really. But when you and I talked about this offline, like Deadpool 3, there's so many rumors, right? I mean, Elektra, Jennifer Garner's supposed to be in there as Elektra, which I think that's actually a fact. But some of this makes me think, when I was telling you that Ryan Reynolds could be trolling all of us, which would be in his character to do so, right? Like, hey, this person's going to be there. This person's going to be there. And I've never been a big fan of like the cameo. Like, I want substance. If you're going to put a character in there, have a substance, have a purpose for them, have a good story, because if not, it's throwaway. And then you can't use them down the line because it just doesn't work that way. So, and then I guess finally, as Taylor Swift, she's acted in a few things and she's not the best actress. That's not to say like James said that she couldn't pull off a great performance, but I mean, no, I'm not. I would prefer not to have Taylor Swift as Dazzler.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if you saw this rumor too. I read it this week that Gillian McMahon coming back as Dr. Doom in Deadpool. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't
post. Oh yeah, so that there was a post that I feel like it's like all the 20th Century Fox movies. Like everybody who is anybody is going to be showing up.
Maybe that's what he's doing. Yeah, maybe that's what he's doing.
Like killing off that universe, killing
Chris
off that
Evans
whole...
is Human Torch would be cool.
Yeah,
maybe they're gonna tie in Deadpool kills the Marvel universes.
Yeah,
part of the story.
Yeah, basically that's basically what I've seen. And then I think what was another rumor that Ian McDermott, right? That's his name, or no? Ian, who's the guy who plays Magneto?
McKellen.
coming back, and like he would be Magneto, and then you'd have Wanda in there, and there would be like this father-daughter thing. Like,
yeah,
it's all confusing.
I've also heard Hugh Jackman's trying to make sure he gets in Secret Invasion.
And
it's weird Daphne how all Keane is an older X-23.
It's weird how like all this stuff is happening, and like there's nothing going on with like the writers or actors and actresses. All of a sudden we have all these rumors, and it's a lot.
Oh, the other two big ones I found a list here. The other two big ones that I have heard a lot is which is kind of spiking on books too, is the Cassandra Nova. That Cassandra Nova might be in there, and then also that Channing Tatum's finally going to get his role as Gambit, and so much so that they even said he's going to be in like his full purple armor and trench coat outfit.
Yeah,
so
I read about that too.
Yeah,
something we haven't seen in forever. That's that. Back to the T-Swift. James, do you have a Dazzler in the works?
I wrote it down.
I was gonna wonder. Yeah,
you do have a couple X-Men. You have what? I saw Phoenix, Magic. I saw Psylocke, and
Phoenix,
Emma.
Magic, a couple Psylocks.
Emma Frost, I think I saw.
Emma Frost. I have another one in Mira Nishin, who did the Padme and the Power Girl. 2 Padmes. I have an Emma Frost by him that's done. I've always been a DC guy, so usually the Marvel side of it, I go with whatever people ask for. You know, because a lot of, you know, the one side of working with artists who are not established yet is you never know how they're going to be received. As far as, you know, sales and you know, the overall, and thankfully I have a full-time career, so that this is kind of a passion project, and I don't necessarily have to like make sure that it goes a certain way in order to put food on the table, which has given me a lot of freedom in putting out whatever the heck I want, regardless of how well it sells. You know, but I work in the more well-known, and I have some, you know, I have a verbal agreement from Carla Cohen. Don McTeague said to reach out to her at the beginning of the year. Ebas, tentatively, you know, so I'm trying to find those well-established artists, only to bring attention to the unknowns and to be able to hire more, you know, unknown artists in between all of them. So usually when it comes to Marvel, it's like, hey, you should do this cover. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do it.
Simple enough. Well, hopefully we'll see a Dazzler soon from someone amazing. Let's kind of just finish it out with, of course, what we always finish out with. What are we currently reading? Zach, now that we're back, I know it's Wednesday. Everything dropped today. Did you get a chance to read anything good, bad?
Oh, yeah. Couple honorable mentions. You know, I read this, and I didn't realize it. I picked up, I'm sure you probably picked it up, the Penguin Zero issue, but it was kind of they'd already printed that. That was in one of the Batman issues, right? Like, I already read that story.
Yeah, it was weird. I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, I started reading it, and I was like, this seems...
Yeah, it's old. I think they reprinted, I couldn't tell you what it was from, because I'd read that whole story before, where Catwoman like goes after looking for his kids or whatever.
But it's interesting for people that don't collect the Batman, even though you probably, if you read that, or if you bought that, obviously, I'm sure you've read it before, and it sets it up for the Penguin #1.
Which I'm excited about. I'm actually, I'm looking forward to Penguin. So honorable mention to that. Honorable mention to the Contest of Chaos, which is kind of cool. There's like an annual. So it's like, we always talked about annuals and like the purpose of them, but sometimes when there's like a theme and a story, they have a bunch of the annuals coming out right now, all coming from like Agatha Harkness and like the Scarlet Witch annual that started off. And each book is almost like 2 heroes against each other. And the first one was Annual Spider-Man, and it was Wolverine versus Spider-Man. Second one was Iron Man that just came out, and it was Storm versus Iron Man. And they're all kind of leading up to this one storyline, and they're, you know, with Agatha and like the Darkhold and stuff like that. And they're pretty fun. They're kind of cool.
I was wondering, because they have that for the Spider-Gwen annual that's coming. It's like Spider-Gwen and
I think next week's Fantastic Four. I think next week is the one that's coming out, is the Fantastic Four. There's going to be a Moon Knight versus Taiguchi, or what, I couldn't tell you how to pronounce that. But yeah, there is the Spider-Gwen one as well. I think it's going to be like 9 or 10 total. So
all right. I was wondering why they were doing it, or what was this?
And then I think my pick of the week is going to be Daredevil number 14, man. The end of Chip Zdarsky's run on Daredevil, which has been amazing. This run, the run prior to this, I'm so sad to see him move on from Daredevil because it's been so good. And this is a really strong issue with very little Daredevil. Of course, in 13, he quote unquote dies, but of course, Daredevil's not going to stay dead. But so you kind of get a glimpse into what's going to occur in the future with Daredevil, and you see Elektra has, really taken in, and she's now the Daredevil in, like, Hell's Kitchen and everything, and kind of just a view into what we'll see in the Daredevil universe moving forward. But awesome run by Chip Zdarsky. If you haven't read it, you should pick it up for sure. So that's my pick of the week.
Awesome. Well, you took two of mine, so I gotta drop off two. For myself, I gotta do some hot garbage.
Okay.
Spider-Man 11, the whole origin of Spider-Boy, and it's just, I don't know.
I can't. That's been crap, man.
Yeah, I just can't buy into this Spider-Boy thing. Like, I mean, you read it, it's very, he's like some creature, and he gets trained by Spider-Man and Daredevil, and then he's in all the tales from like the early Amazing Spider-Man run with like the Fantastic Four, and then he's his sidekick, and that's the whole point, is like now he's trying to be a sidekick. And we've talked about this before. Like, DC is the world of sidekicks, not Marvel. Like, don't need him in there. So, fortunately, it's hot garbage for me.
What are his powers? What are his powers? What can he do?
Like spider.
He sticks to walls. That's it. There's nothing new. There's nothing.
Yeah, he's got like six eyes, and he looks like a spider. He's got like six eyes when he doesn't have his mask on, and he's got like a fang. He's got like two fangs or whatever. So, because you see him like when he opens his mouth with the mask on, it actually looks like a spider instead of like, obviously Peter or any of the other spider characters you never see their face, right? You never see their mouth. So it is what it is. And he's some little kid. So, the Death of the Venomverse number 2 came out this week, which was, again, interesting. They had the Kid Venom. It is what it is, as like a backup story, but still loving the whole Carnage thing, going through the universes and trying to kill all the Venom codexes with, you got Venom, you got Virus and Annie, trying to stop him as well, like going through the multiverses. So that's been fun. And, I guess my pick of the week, and this was actually last week's holdover that I didn't talk about, was we talked about the What If Dark stuff, right? Yeah. And I remember when we originally talked about this, all I remember knowing was the Loki one and the Spider-Gwen one. But they obviously, this week you had the What If Moon Knight, and I didn't read it because I didn't really know too much of the Moon Knight series, so I didn't really want to read it because I felt like I'd be completely lost. But the What If Dark thing from last week, I don't know if you read that one, Zach.
No, I don't read. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So it's basically set in the 80s. It picks up after Secret Wars, where basically what happens is, it happens where Reed takes the black suit spider, the symbiote from Peter. He doesn't give it back to Peter. So when they get back from Battle World, it's basically in like the Fantastic Four tower, right? And like, it's just there. And basically Ben Grimm is like tired. He's like, oh, when are you going to help me? When are you going to help me type of thing. And he ends up taking the symbiote suit and becoming Venom, like as the thing. And what's interesting of having it attached to him is the symbiote actually basically can change him back into a human.
Yeah.
So he's like, he doesn't want to give it up. And then lo and behold, he runs into the Lizard. And obviously, if you've read the original Secret Wars, the Lizard is there. So he ends up trying to help Ben by removing the symbiote, but also leaving him human. Doesn't end so well. Then the Lizard ends up taking the Venom symbiote, and he becomes Venom, and does some crazy things to the Fantastic Four. And I'll leave it at that. So I want you to go pick it up if you haven't read it, but definitely pick of the week from last week's holdover was the What If Dark thing issue, which is very interesting. Just because, again, where it's set in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, the time. Yeah, that's cool.
Very awesome. So, all right. So before we get out of here, season 3, episode 33. Appreciate all of our old listeners, new listeners, and of course, where you can always find us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, everywhere else. But again, shout out to our friend and co-collab with James from Mad Love Comics. James, really appreciate you on this episode. Learned so much.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Again, why don't you let people know where they can find you and any last words?
The biggest is the website's madlovecomics.com. Instagram links and all that stuff's on there. And I guess the last words would be just support artists.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. And to make sure you definitely, again, people, seriously, like, I know it's not a comic book, it's a comic book, but for my artist fans out there, definitely go out and check out the website if you have never, seen James's website or his Instagram. I mean, there's always so much, and there's, again, like Zach said, there's something for everybody. So again, James, again, appreciate you coming on here. Zach, closing words before we get out of here.
All good.
All good. All right, people. You know me, I'm always doing Whatnot sales. Find me on Whatnot. Oh, and James also has a Whatnot, so make sure you follow James as well. He does some shows up there that I usually every now and then pick up some books if I'm not picking them up on the website. So that's it, everybody. We will catch you all next week. Peace out.
Later.
Thanks, guys.